Well, everybody that's listening to the call, those of you that are listening to the recording of the call, I mean, you just got to get excited, and you got to start thinking. After you hear a story like DW just shared about Rick Lang, you got to go, what if? What if it really worked? And so many people, they're pessimistic and they're so skeptical that they won't even try it. And they say, well, yeah, it worked for him, but it won't work for me. My doctor said it won't work for me. I'm stuck with this for the rest of my life. And I just tell people, I'm like, well, you know, what if you just gave it a try? If it doesn't work, you're back where you started. It can't hurt you. But if it does work, think of the amazing things that can happen as a result of it. I look at myself, and, you know, 10 years ago, August of 2007, I was involved in that horrible motorcycle wreck, and my right leg was just, I mean, it really was smashed into a million pieces. When I looked at the x-ray, it's like, holy cow. And the doctors there, the orthopedic surgeons, they said, there's no way that you're ever going to walk on this leg again. They said, you know, we can push it back together, and they kind of made this motion with their hands like they were modeling something out of clay. And they said, we can push it all back together, but it's not going to work right, and you're going to end up having blood clots, and you're going to get an infection in there, and we're going to end up having to cut it off down the road anyhow. And I was too stubborn to listen, and I just said, well, I sure like to try and keep it if we can, and yeah, my leg it turned black, and they had to peel off this black rawhide type of skin off. I mean, it's kind of gross. I mean, if you saw it, it was kind of gross to see him doing it. But and then it took 2 years for the open wounds to heal. I mean, they were open wounds, seeping and draining for 23 and a half months, 2 weeks short of 2 years, and the wounds finally closed up. And then, you know, I still wasn't walking, and I mean, with crutches, canes, things like that, I could get around, wheelchair, but really not doing much. And then one day it healed up, you know, the wounds did, and not too much longer after that, I started walking, and here I am. I'm out in the Rocky Mountains. I just did a little hike this morning. Took a shot at a big buck, and I hit a tree instead that was in front of him, but I missed. You know, now that's recorded. Everybody in the world knows that I missed. But it happens. Anyhow, but my leg was so good that I could actually walk and go up and look for a blood trail and search around, and that. And it's just amazing what the body will do if you give it the right stimuli. And part of it is the stimulus that goes from your brain down into your leg. When DW talks about Rick having such amazing recovery, when you look at my leg, I mean, here it is 10 years later, and I'm still getting better. I mean, that's amazing, because as a physician, I'll tell you, they taught us that people meet what they call maximum medical improvement within 2 to 3 years after an injury. 2 to 3 years. Here it is 7 years beyond that, and I continue to get better and better and better. And you know, like DW was talking about with the age pill, I think with that, it really is. We hear people use the word game changer. It really is a game changer, because people who have been in accidents years ago, people who have had strokes, people that have had crazy things happen to them, they might find better health after using this product, and it helps support the body's healing system. It helps support the body's built-in innate intelligence is what we call it. And so I really like that product. And on Facebook the other day, I was talking about brain health, and that was really what my topic is today. And you can see kind of how I'm leading into that. And I've noticed since I started taking the age pill that my memory has just really, really gotten sharp again. I feel like brain-wise, if we can use that word, if it is a word, brain-wise, but I feel like I've gone back in time, brain-wise, about 30 years. I feel like I'm alert. I feel like when I get up in the morning, I'm rip roaring ready to go. I don't have to hit that snooze button on my alarm. Rarely do I use an alarm, but even when I do, I don't have to hit that snooze button. I'm ready to go. When I wake up, my eyes are open and let's go get something done. And and I'm 55 years old, so I think that's amazing when you look at a lot of other people that are my age. And it seems like I can just run circles around a lot of people that are my age. And as I'm watching people who are taking the age pill, I see them all saying the same thing, that they're finding they just have this abundance of energy and vitality in their health. And so what a great formulation that Tom Sr. put together for us. And I was having dinner with Tom the other night, and we were talking about the age pill and some of the ingredients and the power of it. And I really can say that I don't think that even he knew exactly what the results were going to be of using this, and based on what we're seeing. I mean, and I don't think that we've seen the best testimonials yet. I think 3, 6, 9, 10 months, a year down the road, after somebody's been taking this product for that long, never missing a dose, and that supplementing with other products that I'm going to talk about, I think that we're going to see some testimonials that really are even beyond your imagination of what can happen when you give the body the right health. And so this morning, before the call here, I was looking up a few things that I wanted to talk about, and I don't want people to say, well, I can only afford one product, and so what should I get? Well, I would say, based on what we're seeing, that one product would be the age pill. I would say that would be that one product. Now, there are some circumstances where I would change that, but for the average person, I would say that would be my product of choice. So think of it, if you can imagine a bicycle wheel, and on that bicycle wheel, the age pill, that's the hub, that's the spindle, that's the center of the bicycle wheel. And everything else builds on that. In my opinion, it's the best way of saying it, because that way, if somebody, if they say that's all they can afford, then that's the one to get in most cases. Now, like I said, there are cases where I would recommend something else besides that, but I would start out with that. And then what other product would I add to it? And today I want to talk about brain health. So if somebody's worried about improving their brain, maybe they've had a stroke, maybe they've got some early dementia, maybe they don't want to get dementia, maybe they don't want to get Alzheimer's, maybe they want to prevent strokes and things like that. So one of the things that I really want to talk about is our product called Super Omega Plus. And in Super Omega Plus, Tom's put a variety of different kinds of fats and oils and nutrition that helps with inflammation, and it helps with giving the body nutrients. And so we start looking at, what kind of fats are out there. And there's a couple of the essential fats. And when I say essential, what that means is that your body needs them to survive, and you can't make them. You can't make them. You have to get them from your diet. And so fish and seafood and the oily fish and some sea algae and seaweeds, they contain probably what's considered to be the best food source of omega-3 fats. There's some plants that contain omega-3 fats, but they're a little bit different. And so there's two types of omega-3 fatty acids that are found in fish. One of them is called EPA, and what that stands for is eicosapentaenoic acid, and the other one is DHA, which is docosahexaenoic acid. And then plants contain one called ALA, which is alpha-linolenic acid. And so when you take a look at it, the alpha-linolenic acid that comes from walnuts and flaxseed and chia seeds and different plants, olive oil, it's a really good fat. But the difference between that and the EPA and the DHA is that it's what they call a short chain fatty acid. And what that means is that when you put the molecules together, it's a short chain. It's got only several fat molecules attached to each other. When you look at the fats that come from seafood, fish oils, the EPA and the DHA, they're what you call long chain fatty acids. So there's a difference. And your body can make some of the long chain fatty acids out of the shorter chain fatty acids, but it's a process and it's not very efficient, and so you really have to look at it. Now, when we talk about the long chain fatty acids, the DHA is one that's found in eyes, and it's found in the brain. DHA is actually found in every single cell in the human body, where EPA is not so much. It's not found in every single cell, and it really doesn't help out with the brain nearly as much. And the EPA is a fat that helps out with helping your body with get rid of the inflammation. It helps out with cardiovascular health and all of that. But the DHA, if you could take a look in your brain, and let's make an analogy comparing your brain to a computer, right? You've got the computer chips, and then you've got the wires that connect. You got the connections between the computer chips that communicate the message from one area of your computer to the other area, and they found that certain metals like gold are really good conductors. So when you look at some of these really expensive electronics, they're made with gold. They have gold actually in the solder or in the connections, and that's because it makes a better conductor. So it's going to send that signal faster, more efficiently, but it's also going to make it so that it communicates properly, so the signal doesn't get altered at all. Now, in your brain, you have the neurons. The neurons are like the computer chips. That's where the activity takes place. But connecting them are long chain fatty acids, DHA, and the DHA connects those brain cells together. And so if you have a diet that's deficient on DHA, what ends up happening is that your brain's not going to communicate properly within the brain cells themselves. It's not going to send a signal from one computer chip to the next, and you're going to start having problems up there, and you might have mixed up signals, and you're not going to find that the brain's going to repair itself, because the brain undergoes oxidation and like rust on a shovel. If you throw a shovel out this time of year, pick it up next spring after it's been snowing all winter, it's going to be rusty. Well, that's what oxidation is, and so when you're talking about oxidation of the brain cells, it's going to mess them up. It's going to cause problems up there, and so we start seeing that. The other thing that I really want to just kind of touch on was magnesium, and magnesium is so important. It helps us. 75% of us are deficient. Magnesium is an essential dietary mineral. It helps with anxiety. Some people call it nature's Valium because it really is really good on helping with that. And there's like 600 different metabolic functions. And so when we take a look at those sorts of things, there's various forms of magnesium. We use magnesium threonate in our brain vitality, and so this would be another product on that spoke of that wheel. So anyhow, I'm looking at the time, and I apologize, everyone. I really went overboard here. I wasn't paying attention to what I was talking about, and I ended up running over. But we'll continue this talk next Tuesday. Everybody have a wonderful day, and again, I apologize for taking so much of the time. Have a great and blessed day. Bye-bye. Actually, sorry, I was looking at a photo that I had made of some of these things I want to talk about. I'm looking at the time there, and that's what got me mixed up. We still have 10 minutes, and so hang on. But, when we take a look at magnesium rates, I mean, we just start seeing that they're deficient. And one way that magnesium helps out with the brain, and I want to talk about this because we're seeing a lot of talk about oxidation of the brain, but magnesium counters stress by binding to GABA. GABA is gamma aminobutyric acid. It's one of the primary neurotransmitters that's found in the brain. And what GABA does is GABA puts the brakes on brain activity, and it puts a halt to it. And when your GABA is low, what happens is that the brain gets stuck on the on position, and it becomes impossible to relax. You feel like you're overwhelmed. You feel like you're disorganized. You always find it's something new to worry about. And when you start worrying about a lot of things, what ends up happening is that it creates stress, and stress affects the other organs. And what it'll do is it causes cortisol levels to go up. And then excess cortisol, it contributes to the anxiety. It makes it worse, but it also causes depression, and it'll cause memory loss and brain fog and mental disorders, and all sorts of things like that. So magnesium threonate, like what we have in our brain vitality, it's going to help with this by supplementing. One of the things that I was reading about before I got on the call was that when we take a look at heavy metals like mercury, lead, and aluminum, they're all listed as toxins that can trigger problems, neurological disorders, and they can cross the brain filter. They can cross through the blood-brain barrier, and they actually accumulate in the brain. And so magnesium acts as a natural detoxifier from these heavy metals, and it'll really help out. The magnesium again that we use is the magnesium threonate. It's been found to be one of the few nutrients that's known to increase something called neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the ability of the brain to actually heal itself, to create new brain cells and make new connections throughout life. And so as we're looking at older folks, if they're deficient on magnesium, what'll happen is that it's gonna cause problems with that, and it's gonna cause memory problems. One of the things that I read about this morning is that fluoride is a toxin that actually binds to magnesium and makes it so it's less bioavailable. And so when we're talking about brain health, one of the things that we have to talk about is that we have to talk about your source of water. Are you drinking water that's been fluoridated? If you are, you should think about making a change to that. Are you brushing your teeth with toothpaste that's been made with fluoride? And so switch over to the Sisel Safe products that don't have the fluoride in there, because believe it or not, that's going to cause problems. And so everybody wants to know, well, what's a good source of magnesium besides the brain vitality? Well, I mean, the top food sources, and I looked this up this morning again because I wanted people to have a good source. Almonds are on top of the list. Spinach, cashews, soy milk, black beans, peanut butter, whole grain bread, avocados. It's also found in sunflower seeds, squash, pumpkin seeds, black-eyed peas, Brazil nuts. And so those are all really, really good sources of magnesium when we take a look at that. And so, again, going back to that spoke idea, if you're worried about brain health, one of the spokes that I would add on there would be the Super Omega Plus. I mean, that would be probably number one. If you're worried about some dementia and you're already having some dementia, I'd probably throw the Brain Vitality in there to help with that. Number three, I'd probably take and I'd look at the Eternity, because the Eternity with the high dose resveratrol that we have in it, it tends to support the SIRT genes, especially the SIRT1 gene, which is the gene of youthfulness. So I really like to add that along with the age pill, because of the activity that it'll help create. So those things really, really help out with brain activity. And then, of course, we don't want to forget about SpectraMax, because SpectraMax supplies all of those just great essential minerals that we need. There's 74 trace minerals that are found in SpectraMax, 40 antioxidants, and that's going to improve not just the health of the brain, but the health of the entire body, and help keep those biological functions working the way that they're supposed to work. So anyhow, I know I've kind of rambled on, and I looked at my watch incorrectly. I'm on a different time zone. I'm out here in Utah. I'm actually out here deer hunting, and you know, what people ask me, well, why do you deer hunt, and why do you hunt for wild game? And I'll tell you, one of the things that I learned a long time ago is that when you take a look at domesticated animals like cattle and other animals that are fed corn primarily, and other things that nutritionists, animal science has found, it makes these animals grow faster. It makes them so that maybe the meat is tastier, but it doesn't make the meat any more nutritious. It's just like all of the chemicals that we spray on our crops and put in the soil. It makes the crop big, so you have a really good harvest, but the plants don't have the nutrition that they once had. Well, that's the same thing with the animals. When the animals are eating this man-made food, they tend to have more of the bad fats. In nature, when you take a look at wild animals, they tend to eat a little bit of bark, and they eat a little bit of grass. Then they'll go eat some grain. Then they'll eat some nuts and seeds and leaves. I mean, and as I'm sitting out in the wild, I watch these animals eating those things, and I know that's what they're doing. But what that does is the same thing that we're talking about with human health. We're finding it with the animals, and now the animals that are raised in the wild, they have a better concentration of good fats, and the good fats don't cause inflammation. And whereas your domesticated animals are going to have more of the bad fats, and that's because they're primarily fed corn and all sorts of man-made ingredients. So anyhow, I just wanted to cover that since I am out hunting, and you guys have a wonderful day. This time it is for real. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Okay, bye-bye.